Touchdown, back on road. Counting money, man, you know how it goes. Hit the VIP and tell my bitch to strike a pose. Hop in mode. Hop in mode.
Dog, I got my brother, bro, from another mother. Super Bowl champ 2011, Super Bowl 45, GreenBay Packers. My boy, hometown legendary native, Milwaukee, Adrian Battles. What's going on, bro?
Man, what's up, Bar, man? Appreciate you having me on here, man. What's up?
Man, listen, I appreciate you, bro, coming to the Barcode podcast, man, taking the time out your schedule, man, and your day, man, to interview and take the audience, well, not just the audience, but me and the audience on your journey, bro. Because, I ain't played football, man. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but I'm real excited to do it with my bro, though. You know what I'm saying?
Man. I'm happy you're doing this, bro. Like, I watched the other episode, man. I'm happy people getting to tell those stories, man. Them untold stories, powerful, especially where we come from. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people that look up to us. So it's inspiration to even see you doing something like this, bro. Man. Like, I already know where this is going.
Yeah. I appreciate it, dog.
Yeah.
But before I ask the first question, bro, I gotta bring this up, bro. So if y'all don't know, AB was on our coaching staff when we was at Vincent. And we went to Hawaii, dog, and for some odd reason, I don't know, we was close together, so we all used to pile up and sleep in each other's rooms and stuff. But so we had to get an extra bed, and the front room gave us an extra bed. We bring it up, mind you, AB like 6'5", 6'6", something like that, man. And you pull out the couch, man. I mean the bed, and you call it Herb Cotty, man. Why you give it the name Herb Cotty, bro?
Hey, man, you know what? Honestly, like when we went on that trip, bro, I was excited. Like going to Hawaii. That was my first flight. I think that was your first flight too, right?
Yeah.
So first flight, man. I'm telling moms the night before, I'm crying for real. Like, man, I'm scared to fly, and it's the first flight, 6 hours. I'm like, nah. So when I get there, I'm expecting everything in Hawaii to be luxurious, right? And I get put in a room with two people, like, I mean, like you said, we was all brothers, but I feel like my contribution to the team was just as much as theirs. So like they got the bed, and they pull out the Herb Cotty for me. I'm like, the lady pulled in, she was like, "Who need the extra bed?" I was like, "Oh, that's me." And with the cot, I'm like, in Hawaii, sleeping on the cot. I'm like, nah. I said, not the Herb Cotty. So I think that was the first thing that came to my mind. I swear.
No, that's funny, dog. The Herb Cotty, dog.
The Herb Cotty. Didn't get no sleep the whole trip.
Dog, for real, dog. That's funny, dog. But man, oh man, got a headache laughing so hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, you went to Vincent, man. Of course, we went to Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen the grind since the beginning when we first walked in them doors, especially you, with the football.
Yeah.
And, you guys had a wonderful team, and I know we had LaShawn Bullock, we had Greg Bracey. I don't want to forget no names, you, DeAndre Levy, Ron Wilder, all the, the crew.
Yeah.
Tell me the grind, walking into Vincent your freshman year, like who influenced you, players, coaches? I know Lightfoot was there, Jones was there, rest in peace, Jones.
Yeah.
Like, tell me how they embraced you when you was an incoming freshman, like,
Yeah. You know what, coming into that team, man, like you said, it was star-studded. Like, forgive me if we forget anybody, but walking in and seeing like LaShawn Bullock, Greg Bracey, Michael McKay, Eric Pittman, bro, Michi Eden, like it was everybody was first team all conference, all Americans, you know what I mean? So I was, walking to a place where they had 6, 7 all-state players on one team. And I'm like, man, so from the player perspective, it was a lot of tough love from them, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Which in the moment I didn't even appreciate. In the moment, I'm like, why are they acting like this? Like we teammates, you know what I mean? But as I got down the line, I'm like, okay, this is what that tough love was bracing me for. So, especially me being in front on the line, right? Like Eric Pittman and Mike McKay, man, they didn't take nothing from nobody, right? Like they played and practiced every single snap like it was their last, bro. And me coming in, I was probably 212 pounds, right? And, these are 300-pounders from day one. And I'm in the trenches with them, getting through around, I'm getting off my back every single play. And I'm like, this is just practice. you know. So it was a wake-up call for me coming from flag football, throwing on the pass with these big giants. But like from a different perspective, like they would always tell me, like, you know what I mean, it's the person that's going to, you know, grind the hardest is going to play. And when you grind, you're going to get to college and it's going to take you from there. So I would see those guys after practice running extra sprints. You know, we didn't have access to the weight room, but they were doing everything they could, push-ups, pull-ups on the field goal post, you know what I mean? So just the grind, you know, I seen them do it. It got kind of contagious to me, you know, and then our coaching staff, bro, like, I think that's the biggest blessing I had, to be honest with you. Like, them, the most selfless coaches I've ever had in my life, right? Lightfoot, Uncle Rick, RIP Coach Jones, RIP Coach Griff, you know, Fred Pierce. Coach Pierce was one of the biggest, you know, motivators for me. Like, he was in my ear every day, like pointing at Mike and, you know, Pitt, like, is that where you want to be? Well, I didn't get that kind of effort from you today. You know what I mean? So, you know, just those selfless coaches that would kind of instill all that trust and courage into you and didn't expect nothing in return. Like, they just wanted to see you be great. So I had a lot of amazing influences on that team, bro. And I'm thankful for it. It took me where I went, honestly, because of those moments my freshman year coming into that school. It was like walking on the college campus. You know how it was. Like, we was in college from day one, you know. So, yeah, I'm thankful for them dudes, man, for real.
Yeah, man, for sure, dude. And even though, you know, they were big impacts, you know, impact on the football team, that's, I feel like their energy was like that around the school with everybody. You know, they was always great mentors, you know, Uncle Rick, John, you know, everyone. So, man, to hear that, you know, that like that work ethic that you had to put in walking into Vincent, you know, playing behind them guys, you know, man, you had to put a lot of work in, AB. And, you know, we believed in you back then, you know. You know, matter of fact, you remember we used to call you Sean May?
Yeah. Yeah, bro. And you know what's crazy? Like, I came in thinking I was gonna start on varsity, right? Like, my first practice, and I know, you know, Life and Uncle Rick could appreciate this story, but I would say 15 minutes into the first practice, I was sitting under a tree, picking the leaves off the tree, bro. I was done for the day. Tired, beat up, first 15 minutes, bro. And that's how I was like, this is what football really about. I went home and told my mom we didn't have practice the next day, right? And she like, why not? I was like, oh, we got a day off. And they calling her phone like, oh, he didn't come to practice today. She's like, I thought you had it off, bro. I was done. You know, at the day one, I was done, bro. Like, I was like, this ain't for me. But like I said, I came back and got that influence from them, and it took me a long way, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you didn't start varsity. You were on varsity, right?
Yeah.
You was on varsity. So when them guys leave, and now it's, you know, the Adrian Battles, DeAndre Larry, Nick Pope, Dominique Johnson show.
Yeah.
What I know in high school you can play multiple positions. What position did you play, you know, when it was the AB show, the 05 year?
No, 05 year. He said, what happened?
I said the 05 show.
You know, 05 show for sure. I mean, we had some skilled players on our team. I played primarily offensive line. So I was center, I played guard, I played tackle, played defense a little bit, you know what I mean, but not a lot, because we had a lot of players talented those years where we didn't have to all go both ways, you know. So primarily I was on offense, kind of interchanging between all the offensive line positions. And sparingly, you know, I would come in for Travis or so on defense and play DN and things like that, but primarily offense, bro.
Yeah. And how was that, man? Like, dude, how is that, bro? Because y'all are literally blocking, right? With y'all. Oh my God, bro. Is there certain, like, you just got to lift weights, right? Is there a way you got to like block? Like, talk to me, bro. You know, I don't know football.
Yeah, I think back then all of us was in the same boat, right? Like, we didn't know that there was really a technique to it. Like, even my freshman year playing against Mike and Pitt, I didn't know it was a technique to it. I thought you just had to be big and strong, right? The biggest person on the team, strongest people play up front. But as I got to, you know, getting the position drills with Jones and Pierce, like, it was really a technique to it. So, you know, body placement, right? Like, am I playing half man or full man? Like, am I going head up? Where's my head contacting them? Is it going straight to the chest or is it going off shoulder, depending on where the ball was going? So once they started to teach me the technique, I feel like that's when I started to take off, you know what I mean? Because I was pretty athletic for my position, but I didn't have no technique, right? Like, I didn't know where to put my hands. Just like you said, I'm just trying to push somebody off the ball, right? So once they started to teach me about hand placement, head placement, foot placement, right? Like, that's when you start to excel, once you start getting those little details. So, you know, to answer your question, man, it's a lot of details and like a lot of technique up front that watching from the blind eye, watching TV on Sundays, you will never know unless you play in there. But playing in the trenches is the hardest part about playing football for sure. Like you make contact every single play, elbows, wrists, hands, fingers, everything. You're making contact every single play, and that's the reason why you see a lot of the concussions happen up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that Vincent team, I know we used to always make our state runs and used to fall short to the up north schools.
Yeah.
To the up north schools. Name some of the players that you guys that were real good that y'all ran into where y'all fell short when y'all was making y'all state run.
Okay. Our first state run was it fell short against Oak Creek, and Oak Creek was loaded with talent, man. It was Raymond Henderson. He had left Vincent to go to Oak Creek. Travis Beckham, of course, was, amazing standout athlete playing both sides of the ball. And we ran into a team that was just a lot bigger and stronger than us, to be honest with you, a lot more dialed in the technique. And, selfishly, I'm going to say, the refs had a hand in it too, right? Like, I don't think that they wanted a city team to even come close to beating those teams, because I remember, and that team surely remembers the second half, once we really figured out what was going on and how to read schemes, like they didn't score on us in the second half, and we scored, I think, 14 points. I think the final score was 14-42. And but I mean, I wouldn't say we was unmatched. I feel like athletically we matched up with them, right? But up front we had no chance. Like they had the big boys up front, technique. Everybody was 6'4", 6'5", 305, you know what I mean? And we was averaging maybe 6'3", maybe 260 up front. You know what I mean? Like, so a big weight difference, and they kind of wore us down. You know what I mean? It wore us down. They ran the ball every single play. It was cold. You know what I mean? And it just wore us down mentally. You know what I mean? So that was our first state run. Our last one, our senior year, which I really thought we was going to win state, man. Like we went to play against Marquette University High School at Marquette. And weather conditions, man, it was rainstorm. We had 7 turnovers on offense. And we only lost by 9 points, you know what I mean? So that's one game I would love to have back on a neutral turf with some good weather, you know what I mean? But can't turn back the hands of time. But that was a year, I think, that we had all the pieces in place to win it all.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, y'all junior and senior year, y'all dudes came back like, like, dude, y'all was putting in that work, man. You know what I'm saying? And listen, y'all know we all supported each other. You already know that I care about y'all. If I was in the freezing cold watching y'all play football, I don't even know what team y'all played against. I just found out y'all played against Oak Creek. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but for us to, we always out there, supporting y'all, because we seen y'all put in the work. We all put in the work together. You know? Yeah.
And I think that was the cool thing about Vincent. That's what brought that college atmosphere, man. Seeing, the basketball team come to games, seeing the volleyball team come to games, right? Like, and us supporting them in the same way. I think that's what built that family chemistry, especially with that 05 group, man. Like, I feel like from the time y'all stepped in and we stepped in, it was all love. And we even got some of y'all to come out for football. You came out for one day. I don't know if you want to tell the pod about that. Javon came out, you know what I mean? So it was good to see y'all come out and give football a try too.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. We all gave it a try. I just gave it a try at the wrong time, my senior year. And the crazy thing, I'm a senior, and then I tear my ACL by a freshman, right?
Yeah, for Desmond Ward, yeah.
You think his name was Desmond?
Yeah.
Man, I just remember being on defense, and I was doing real well. And again, rest in peace, Coach Jones. Coach Jones wanted me to flip-flop like on offense or something. It was something crazy. I'm like, man, I don't want to be on offense. He's like, oh, you want to bear crawl to the fence? Like, everybody know that went to Vincent, that fence far as at
least 300 yards.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man. So I switch, and I just get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So, but the good thing is, when I did play, when I was out in practice, I had fun with y'all guys. I just wish I didn't get hurt, because I definitely would have took football serious with y'all. I would have definitely took every bit of advice from y'all, the coaching staff, everything. So I just wish I would have played earlier. But that's the story. That's how I got hurt, if nobody know. So
I mean, I remember it a little bit different, but yeah. Yeah.
No, chill. So look, leading to your senior year, what all schools were offering you?
You know what? Honestly, Q, bro, I didn't have a lot of schools offering me, especially like big time schools. I was underweight. My first day of college, I showed up, I think I was 251, right? So when I was going to these camps for schools, I was probably between 235, 245, right? So, Lightfoot took us to a lot of schools, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh. We went to a lot of those schools, but I didn't receive any offers from any of the big time schools. I started to get a little bit of attention from the MAC conference. So Northern Illinois, Ball State, Bowling Green, and then I finally got my first offer from Minnesota State, right? And Minnesota State Mankato, when I went there, it was one of those things to where I felt at home, bro. Like I felt that coaching staff made me feel at home. The players made me feel at home. And for me, being in the house with just my mom and my two sisters, I wanted to be relatively close. So being that it was only a 4.5, 5 hour drive, I was like, this might be the home for me. And, they was willing to, pay for my education, which is what, all the coaches preach. That's the biggest thing we want you to do, get your education paid for. So once I found that out, man, I don't think it was a hard decision for me. I wanted to wait around for the big D1 schools, but being as small as I was, it wasn't really going to come, and it sucked that it had to be that way. But I'm like, this is school for me, Minnesota State Mankato, and we just made it happen. So
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you go to Mankato. Now, how was your confidence at the time? Because back then, when a lot of us don't, and I want the kids to hear this and understand this, because I know about that conference and how good it is. So when at that time, going Division I, which is like the best thing ever.
yes.
So how was your mindset going into Mankato State Division II player?
Mindset, man. I went in and I was upset. I was pissed off, right? Like, I'm a Division I player. I feel like I'm a Division I player. I've been around Division I players. I've been to camp and seen guys get offered that I was really relatively the same with. But so my whole plan of going to Mankato was go for 1 year, do what I need to do, and transfer out, right? I get to Mankato and I'm in summer drills and my coach, Coach Nowinski, and we good brothers to this day, so I'm pretty sure he'll be okay with me sharing this. But he tell me like, Battles, you would never play a snap here, and I'm like, so I'm sitting there like I'll never play a snap. Like y'all gave me a full ride, like well, I'm never play a snap, and he told me that in the moment. I'm thinking to myself, I'm defeated now, Q. I'm like, it's over. Like I'm not playing here. Like let me just focus on academics, right? But then it was like 2 days later, I think I called Lightfoot and I told him exactly what he said. And he was like, look at it from a different perspective. He sees something in you, and he's trying to see exactly what he can bring out of you with his comments. So from then, Q, I think I showed up, like I said earlier, like 240 something, right? I was in the weight room we graduated June 5th. I was in Mankato June 6th, right? In the weight room the entire summer, bro. I went from 250 to like 284 in one summer, bro, just eating and lifting twice a day, right? So, coming in, my confidence was high. That kind of shattered it right away. And then I got right back on the train, like, you know what, I'm here for a purpose and this is what's gonna happen. So that's how I got to the point to where I was able to start as a freshman, you know what I mean? But it took a lot of work to get there, right? And you know what I mean? And it got my confidence back to where it needed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you shared that story, because it's a lot of kids, it's a lot of people out here who, someone to say something to them and they just shut down, give up. So for you to share that story, I want y'all people, people who's tuned in watching, like, bro, like never give up, no matter what nobody say. And for you to keep grinding like that, look at the results. That's, what I'm saying? That's all we can say.
Sure.
And so for you to do that, that was real strong-minded of you.
Yeah.
So how was it on the because we all student athletes, and we got the I always tell people when you get a scholarship, it's like having two jobs. You got to perform on the field, you got to perform in class. Now, with us coming from MPS, and then you going to the university, how was it being a student athlete on the school side?
Man, I think that was the toughest part. I think balancing that was so tough for me because a typical day schedule will be weights at 5:30 a.m., right? First class at 8, you maybe had classes from 8 to 12. And then from 2 to 4 will be meetings, and then 4 to 7 practice, and then study table after practice, right? So literally from 5:30 till about 10 p.m., like you was occupied with everything team and school related. So for me, like you said, coming from NPS, right, living at home, like I had no sense of what time management was, right? So I would wake up in time to make weights because you couldn't miss weights. But then after weights, I'm tired. Let me go back to the dorm, take a nap. Now I didn't miss my 8 o'clock class. I didn't miss my 10:15 class. And like now the coach is beating on my dorm door. So the toughest part was to just kind of get that routine down, right? Like I was used to going to sleep when I wanted to, waking up when I wanted to. So like I had to start setting myself on a schedule and, kind of putting reminders of why this schedule is important to me. Like this schedule is going to get me to the league, right? Like all I gotta do is take care of these small things every day, right? And get me to the league. But Q, I tell you, bro, like that was the toughest part. My first semester was my worst semester of college academically, right? Because I couldn't focus in the class. I was thinking so much about the playbook, right? Thinking so much about weights, putting on weight, being at weights the next morning, couldn't do my homework at night, right? So it's so hard to find that balance. But once you find it, if you get a good tutor or a mentor that helps you with that, I think it's always got to be a helping hand in that. Like nobody can do that alone. Nobody.
Yeah, yeah. It's just so it's just yeah, it's too tough.
It's too
You
tough.
know, we've been kids our whole life, and then we go into a university, we want our schooling paid for, what I'm saying? And then when we get there and it's a job, it's like, oh snap, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
Like no knock to the guys I played with in college at Concordia St. Paul, but it was sometimes where I'm like, okay, I'm tired of being around them, dude. Like, we, like you said, study table, basketball, weightlifting, traveling on the road.
Yes.
They ain't there. Some of us got some of the same majors, so I'm seeing them in the classes.
Nice.
I don't know,
And then
bro.
still want to kick it after class.
Yeah, exactly.
Meet me in the student union. Let's go here. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a nonstop thing, and that's the brother. So I think it's a beauty in it too, right? Like, and you know this, you was at Concordia, so like it's a beauty in it because those become your brothers that you communicate with for life. You know what I mean? And they see you at your worst, they see you when you at your best, and like when you on the field and they need to get something out of you, they know exactly what to say. You know what I mean? Because they with you every day. You talk to them more than you talk to your family.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's such an accountability there that you can't miss nothing because there's so many eyes on you. You know?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So you started offensive tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Started offensive tackle.
Yep.
Man, if you can describe like your first season as a freshman, starting, like what's your approach to the game now?
Yeah. So my first year starting, as a freshman, starting at left tackle with that, like I think, I mean, when you think about the hardest positions to play in football, I think you could say, left tackle, cornerback, and maybe quarterback, right? Middle linebacker is probably in that conversation as well. Like those are the toughest positions to play. So, starting at as a freshman at left tackle, bro, it was unheard of, number one. And two, my whole offensive line was all seniors. So it was 4 seniors and me. And it was it was tough because I would notice in game planning, right? Like we watch film and I would see the best defensive end on their team was on the other side, but as soon as it's time to play us, since I'm a freshman, that DN on my side now all of a sudden, right? So which as the defense coordinator, I would do the same thing, right? Like I'm gonna attack this freshman, he don't know what he's doing, right? So I knew how much pressure it was on me to be the backside protector of the quarterback, and I didn't take that lightly, right? So after practice, I'm watching extra film. After practice, I'm running extra stairs, right? Like I knew I wanted to not only be that freshman that was started, but I wanted to be the best player on the offense, right? Like I wanted to be the best player on the offense. So I'm watching film. I'm watching NFL teams with their left tackles. I'm watching Orlando Pace, all these different people, right? And just learning little things from them as well. But also trying to find a way to have fun while I'm doing it. Because you know me, like I want to have fun, right? Like I, I didn't want to be out there as a robot. So I think once I would say about a week or two before our first game is when it finally clicked for me. Like I can have fun while I'm doing this too, right? So I knew I was gonna make mistakes, right? I'm a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the heaviest. People gonna gun for me. They sending blitzes off my edge, linebackers coming off my edge, right? No tight end help on my side. Quarterback was, Ben King at the time. He was like for our D2 Heisman, he was one of those like candidates, right? So it was called the Harlan Hill. So protecting his backside, he came to me the night before the game and told me like, I don't care who believes in you. I do. I know I don't have to worry about my backside. So getting that confidence instilled by not only by the coaches, but by a quarterback like that, I'm like, let's ride, man. You know what I mean? So I was able to do that, man, and play that whole entire season. I actually got player of the game that first game, my first start. At home against Truman State. I'll never forget it, right? Like the fans was behind me, so they announced the starting lineups, freshman, left tackle, so the fans got behind me. So it felt good, man. My mom was there. It just felt really good to get that behind me because I felt like that was a big hurdle for me to get over. I felt like that first start was going to mean a lot for me. If it went good or bad, I was going to learn a lot from it.
Yeah, and it wound up going good, know. And, with the quarterback being such a top-tier quarterback, he coming to you, talking, giving you the confidence, what I'm saying? So that's real good, And I want you to share this too, AB.
Yeah.
Let people know, let the audience know how good of a conference and the type of players that, it's a lot of players that went to the NFL from that conference.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so at the time we went in, it was the NCC, and now it's switched to the NSIC, right? Now it's a Northern Sun Interscholastic Conference, but it was the best conference in D2, like bar none, right? Like every year you would have anywhere from 6 to 10 players out of there going, to the pros and not just going, getting drafted, So we played against some amazing talent. Honestly, the way I looked at it too, it was a lot of those kids that lived in states that may not have had a D3 program or maybe not a D or just one big time D1. And, a lot of them kids could have played D1, right? But just because of small breaks, whether it was grades or whether it was not enough exposure or whatever it may be, they ended up at this D2 school in this conference. So the conference was stacked, man. Every year it was a toss up of who was going to win it. Competition was great. You never had games where it was, 80-0, you was in a lot of, slugfest where it was 21-24, 31-24, right? Like, so the conference was amazing. So, not only to start and play in that conference, but just to be a part of an atmosphere like that. Like I felt like a lot of people refer to it as the SEC of D2. Now, I ain't gonna go that far, right? I ain't gonna go that far. I ain't gonna disrespect the SEC because I like watching them, but it kind of brought some relevance to that conference as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, man. Like, hey, I love playing in that, that conference. And I used to watch some of the football, games and stuff, man. Back when I was at Concordia and stuff, it was definitely a lot of energy in the building. Whatever team, we played, it was a lot of energy in the building. Hey, Concordia wasn't, I could talk about the football team. Concordia St. Paul was trash, okay? But I used to go to the games and the other teams, man, the energy was there.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. So is there any player in the conference that was just like a demon that where you just had to really just lock in maybe like 2 days before the game? Like any player in that conference that just like you knew like, okay, I gotta come, prepared, man. This dude.
You know what? It was a lot. It was a lot in the conference, bro. I don't remember exactly all their names, but I know it was a defensive end at Northwest Missouri. He ended up getting drafted by the Giants. Forgot his name, but he was a guy that literally I knew I played him week 3, and I started prepping for him in training camp. Right, like he was one of those guys that was defensive player of the year before. Really technical, sound, big boy, 6'5", like 290, right, fast off the edge. I think he was getting 20 sacks a year. You know what I mean, like. Big time, so I knew that was going to be my statement, right? Like as a sophomore, like what I do against him is going to kind of determine what my NFL dreams look like because every team is coming to watch him, right? He got people at training camp, and then we went down to play them, even in warm-ups, bro. It's NFL coaches on the sideline watching him warm up. So I knew that was the guy, right? Like that's the guy I circled in training camp, like, hey, this got to be my best game of the year. Besides him, I would say my brother Fred Williams, man, at St. Cloud, and we didn't play against each other on the on the field because I was on offense, he was on offense, but Fred, is that guy who came to me in warmups and told me, tell your DBs be ready, right? And I felt that, right, because I know how Fred get down. So I told my DBs like, hey, let's make sure we take care of Fred. And Fred was a demon, man. Like from high school to college, like to the pros, it's nothing you can do with Fred. Like he was gifted, man. He was really, really gifted. So Fred was a demon that came to Mankato and, stole the show. They beat us that year, actually. And I think he had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, he was really good.
Yeah. And for those who don't know who Fred Williams is, AKA Bon Bon. You know, that's the fam. You know, he was in that conference, went to St. Cloud State.
Yep.
You know, he had an opportunity to play in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, man, people gotta quit sleeping on Division II. You feel what I'm saying?
For sure.
So did y'all make the tourney? Like, did y'all have okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you know what's crazy part about it is, bro, like, we made the tourney my last 2 years, right? Like, we made the tourney, and the first year we made it my junior year. I think that was Fred's sophomore year. 11-0, go into the conference championship game against St. Cloud, right? We beat St. Cloud, we get a first round bye. We lose to them, we play the next week. Bon go crazy on us, right? We lose. Like, we lose on the last drive of the game, bro. Like 31-24, loss. Went to the tourney, and I think that messed us up mentally, honestly, right? Like, we went in riding so high, like 11-0, like, finish this game out. Honestly, we really didn't prepare for that game because we already started to mentally get ready for the bye week, right? So we lose that game, and then we went and played in the playoffs against Ashland, and we lost. You know, we took an L. Then the following year, another situation, we was 10-1, same thing, go to the conference championship, win it this time. But then we get to play Hillsdale, you know, which a team that we should have beat, man. I think we was a 2 seed and they was a 7, right? Like, we should have beat them easily, but once again, mentally, we wasn't there, man. And I hate that we weren't there mentally, like our first home playoff game, and I think in school history. So having that attention, that excitement, right, the publicity, right, like everything was setting up for us to be what we needed to be in. We laid an egg, man. We lost in overtime. That year, and we had a great team. You know, Adam Thielen was on that team. He played for the Vikings now. Quarterback Ryan Fick. We had an amazing offensive line where 3 of us were All-Americans, if not 4. About 3 or 4 All-Americans on defense. Had a stacked team. We just didn't put the pieces together, and we laid an egg that week. So we made a tourney, man, but we never took it all away. Never.
So that's 2 beautiful years.
Yeah.
11-0 going into it, right? And then your senior year, 10-1.
Yep.
Oh man, like what? I mean, did y'all lose focus? Like what, you know, like as a team as a whole, or?
Yeah. I know you can attest to this too. Like, you done been in that championship arena. I know even back from Vincent, we always going upstate, right? Like, once you get into that moment, man, sometimes that moment is too big for certain players, right? Like, that publicity, you know, the TV, the cameras, right? Like, it becomes too big, and not too big always in a bad way, but too big to the point to where you start to overdo things that you've been doing the same way all year, right? Like, you've been seeing this team throw this 5-yard out all year, but now you want to break on it early, and now they run a double move and it's a touchdown, right? So little things like that, man. And it's like, when you go back and watch the film, we had so many mental errors that it just cost us, man. And like, it hurt me, man. I think they had a picture of me crying after that game, and like, it would hurt me. I think my teammates with the Vikings made fun of me for that picture. You know what I mean? But I was hurt, bro. Like, I knew, just the same way I knew my senior year at Vincent, like, this is our year to win it all. So to not get a ring with that team, with all the stars we had, I was hurt, man. I was hurt.
Yeah, man.
And to lose in overtime, man, like to lose in OT on the block field, like, I was just like, come on, man.
Oh man, yeah. Hey, listen, I cried upstate, but shit, I don't care. You know me, because I love the game. You know, we work hard. You know, and you worked hard. You know, and you know, all of y'all worked hard. So for y'all to fall short like that, man, everyone should have been hurt and crying.
Everybody, man.
Yeah, everybody. So senior year, what all accolades did you have? Like, did you make first team, second team?
Yeah. So senior year, I had a lot of accolades, man. Like, I played hard, man, because I worked hard that year. You know, so everything that I got, I feel like it was just a testament to all the hard work I put into coming into that season. So I was first team all conference. I was all state. I was up for the Upshaw Award, which is awarded to the best offensive lineman in D2. So I had a lot of awards, man, and I think that was not only a direct reflection of like the hard work I put in, but my teammates too, right? Like, my teammates, you know, trusting me to be a left tackle, trusting me to be over there on the island by myself, and me knowing that they would take care of business too. You know what I mean? So it just freed up a lot of space for me mentally and physically to where I knew that I had that trust from my coaching staff and my team, and it let me play ball. So I was able to play ball freely. And, when you're not thinking too much and you playing ball, like, that's when your best comes out. So, like, I had a lot of accolades, but the best accolade I could have got would have been a championship, and we didn't get that. So,
Yeah.
The first, don't get me wrong, I got those, hung up, and, all American plaques and everything hung up. But every time I look at them, I think about what it could have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And man, just and just hearing like, the plaques and awards and all the accolades that you have, like, for me personally, like, it makes me just feel, I'm smiling right now. It makes me really happy. You know what I'm saying? I'm really happy for you because, like I said, I remember when we first walked in them doors at Vincent, dude, and like, you put the work in, like you put the work in, AB. You know what I'm saying? And your game showed it. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I love it, AB. But all right, so you get, oh yeah, for sure. So you get all the accolades, you get your accolades senior year, y'all fall short, and you graduate. All right. Now, this is the number one question that I have, because I know football is totally different than basketball. So did you have any workouts with any NFL teams? And if you did, what teams were they? Like I want you to just like kind of like tell me how, like, how NBA you can have like workouts and then you can go to like preseason and stuff like that. Like, how do it work in the football?
So football is similar, but we just don't have as many individual workouts because a lot of our, I guess, talent is measured at the combine, right? So we'll have a big combine in February, and then each school will have a pro day, right? And that's usually when scouts get to come and see you one-on-one. Sometimes quarterbacks mainly will get called in for like to come and throw again, for a specific team or things like that. But usually for everybody else, it's really the weight is on the combine or the pro day, right? So heading into the combine, I went and, I trained for it, right? I trained hard and I wanted to put up the best numbers possible. Obviously, I knew coming from D2 already that was going to be, 1X, right? Like they don't view us as D1 players, right? And then, from coming in the mindset of being undersized too for my whole career, I kept that mindset even when I did put on the weight, right? I just wanted to continue that mindset. Like, hey, these same teams, I'm gonna be going against players to figure out where I'm gonna get drafted. Those schools said I was too small. So I had a chip on my shoulder, right? So I went to train for the combine and had an amazing workout, bro. I ran a 4.87, which at the time was the second fastest in the country behind Bruce Campbell, I believe his name was, from Maryland. I hit the bench 30, I think 36, 37 times, right? And I tested pretty well in the other drills. So when I had my pro day, I had it in Indianapolis because my school, Mankato, we couldn't host one, right? Like we didn't have an indoor facility. And in February, March, you know how cold it is, right? So we're not in the outdoors. So at my pro day, I had a few teams there. I had the Vikings, obviously, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, the Jets. Had about a good like 8 teams there, right? So that had me mentally amped up. Anyway, I'm like, okay, it's go time. Because all I need is one of y'all, right? I just need one of y'all to see something and say, hey, that's me. So I remember running that first 40 and, I ran it, I'm big, so it take me a while to slow down, right? So I finally get a chance to slow down. And as soon as I turn around, right, like I turn around and one of the Vikings coaches was there and he was like, oh man, you blazing through that, right? I'm like, yeah, coach, I've been working hard. So I knew come draft day that there could be a potential that I would land somewhere, but I didn't really get my hopes up super high because my agent was realistic with me, right? Like coming from the conference I came from, coming from D2, right? They may want to see more, and that more may be in training camp or maybe in OTAs or offseason workouts. So don't be alarmed if the team don't draft you 6, 7 rounds. So I went into it with, the mindset of knowing that either one could happen, right? Like I didn't care how it happened. First round, third round. Oh, let me be realistic. It wasn't gonna be first round, right? Just 6, 7 round or a free agent, right? Like I was ready for whatever. I just wanted the team to take a chance, and I knew I was gonna go in there and show them what I had.
Yeah, for sure. And like, man, the combine, wow, dog, like that's crazy. You jump in and you got to do routes and run and I'm football. Y'all football players are crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like y'all do like 5-6 sets of bench press, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as basketball players, we do 3.
And that's probably changing now because you see these players coming out big basketball now, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it makes sense. I think, functionally basketball, you got to use your arms to shooting so much. So you don't want to be as bulky and stocked up on top. We rarely lift our arms above our head. Everything is in here. So we can be, you know what I mean, like that. So like a pit bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get you get undrafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get undrafted. Describe that call. Did Minnesota call you? Did your agent? Like, how did that go?
All right, so it was back then. The draft was in 3 days, so it was day 3, man. And my agent had called me that morning and told me that, hey, it's a possibility. You know what I mean? I got 3 teams that could reach out to me, kind of asking about, is he healthy? Is he this? What kind of player he is? What kind of guy? So I was in my mind at that point. I told my mom, like, I'm getting drafted today, right? Like, I'm like, it's gonna happen, right? Started looking for the house. But I would say 7th round rolled around, and like a few of those teams that he told me was looking for me, I started to see them take other players, and I'm like, okay, so realistically now the route is gonna be free agent. The draft concluded, and I would say maybe 15 minutes after, my phone rung, and it was a 612 area code, and I answered, and it was the GM from the Minnesota Vikings, and he asked me, had any other teams contacted me yet? And I said, no, you're the first team. And he was like, I'm delighted, you ready to be a Minnesota Viking? And I'm like, oh yeah, no doubt about it. Let's make this happen. And he was like, all right, man, we're excited to have you on board. I forgot what the lady name. I'll have her call you tomorrow to schedule the flight. We're gonna get you in tomorrow, get fitted and everything, and get everything taken care of from a paperwork perspective. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I got off the phone, and I wasn't with my mom and my family at the time because I was at a draft party for Nick, actually. So I called my mom, and and that's when I cried, you know what I mean? Because my whole life, so many people had doubted, that whole journey, right? Like, and my focus was never to prove those doubters wrong, to be honest with you. Like, I never put my energy to try to prove them wrong. I just wanted to prove every single person that did believe in me that they was right? Like, you had a reason to believe in me, and I appreciate that. So, I called those people, man. I called my mom, I called my pops, I called Lightfoot, I called everybody, man. I called everybody I could think of that night and just said thank you. Like, thank you for believing in me, because that belief is what got me to this level. So yeah, I cried a little bit and then wiped them tears off, wiped them tears off and went back in and told everybody that I was with. And then we kind of partied a little bit. And then the next morning I was on a flight to Minnesota.
Yeah. So now, like you said, you cry,
Mm-hmm.
and you wipe it. You like, okay, it's business time.
Yeah.
So I want to know like how you feel while you get off the plane.
Yeah.
And I read up on something where you said that you've never been to an NFL game before.
Never.
So yeah, so for you to get signed undrafted and you walk into the stadium, you talking to, all the people that's, up high, like what's going through your mind now? Like, are you like, like just like overly excited, or you like focused, nervous?
I mean, excited, not even a word, bro. The NFL, they do it first class. So everything was so smooth transitionally, right? Like, picked up from the airport, get, dropped off at the stadium, and I get to the stadium, you got the coach waiting out there, and, they greeted me and everything. And it made me feel so at home. And I had played college ball in Minnesota, so it felt like it was the right fit, right? And, I'm excited, man. My eyes are like bucked open. I'm walking in like, damn, I'm walking past lockers or names that I've watched play sports forever, right? Like, I walk in and I see Brett Favre locker to the right. And I'm like, man, Brett Favre, I've been watching him since I was, this big, right? So, and then, they walk me through the facility, and then coming out the weight room is Adrian Peterson. So I'm like, damn, man, like this is surreal that this is even happening. I'm in this building, not as a spectator, as a fan, but like with a potential to make this team and play alongside of some of these greats, So I was excited, man. I was thankful for every single thing that happened, right? Like, I could barely even eat when they took me to eat that day. Like, I was just so excited to get done with that and call everybody and tell everybody what was going on. So yeah, bro, I got off that bus and that plane. Like, I was excited, man. Like, it wasn't even no sense of focus, right? Like, I was just so excited about that moment. Like, I wanted to live in that forever. So yeah, it was an amazing time. Amazing.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
Yeah.
Listen, it has. I know
Yeah.
that it's like a wonderful feeling,
Mm-hmm.
especially you coming from D2, you already going into the combine, and coaches probably not even damn near looking at you. And then you just get that one person. And the one thing that I noticed that everyone, people that made it to the NFL, NBA, the one thing that I always hear y'all say, like, it's just about that opportunity, dude. And when you get your opportunity, you got to take it and you got to run with it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So now you with the Vikings. You now when you come to the team now, are you on offense or defense? Like, what position were you playing when you was playing for the Minnesota Vikings?
They brought me in as a guard, but like in the NFL, like especially with those middle positions, the guards and the centers, like they're so interchangeable, right? So they put you a left guard, they put you a right guard. They're gonna see if you can play center because on the active roster in the NFL, you're only gonna keep 9 to 10 linemen, right? So you need somebody that can play a few different positions. That way you can make a case for them to stay around, right? Because if you just locked into playing one, which some people are big time left tackles, big time right tackles, right? They'll never have to interchange. But sometimes those guards in the middle had to switch around just to be multifaceted, right? So when I got there, I was a guard, but I played left guard, right guard, and center. And I knew that coming in. My agent told me whatever they ask you to play, just play, right? Like, and just try to be the best at that. So I went in knowing that, and of course, I played on the left side my entire college career. My first practice there, I was on the right side. So the footwork is a little bit different, but mentally, I was already prepared for that. And if I wouldn't have been, I would have been like, man, why they got me over here, coach? I'm on the left side, right? But I knew that, hey, they want to see where you can play. We already seen you on film on the left. Let's see what you got on the right. So, being able to be interchangeable was amazing for me. So it started me off at guard, though.
Yeah, for sure. And man, NFL is so cutthroat too.
Yeah.
It just, it's, oh man, yeah, NFL is just so cutthroat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's all. I'm gonna just leave it there. But explain who the first. How long? Who was your first? The first team you played against?
First team I played against that preseason, we played against San Francisco first. And when you are an undrafted free agent, right, like you're gonna make your money in that preseason, right? Those preseason games where you're gonna get your reps, right? Because starters rarely play. So going into that, we was in training. We went through from the draft. You had about 3 months of off-season workouts where it was just on the lifting playbook. Then you get a training camp. That's another 3 to 4 weeks of just like lifting playbook, right? Finalizing who's going to be on the roster. You start with maybe like 95 players, get down to 53, right? Mm-hmm. So, getting to the preseason, I knew that's where my money was going to be made, right? Like, and football is all about being available, man. It's all about being healthy and being available. So I got an opportunity to have a lot of burn against San Francisco because the guard in front of me actually went down and practiced a few days prior. So it was an opportunity for me to play against, some good talent, that wasn't free agents. So their second string and a few of their first string players. So at the time they had like Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Saponga up front. They had a lot of good guys. So, for me to get my feet wet against some guys that I've seen play, I think not only was it a wake up call for me to see exactly where I stood, you know what I mean? But also where my strength was, right? Like I wanted to be strong, but these guys been playing for 9, 10 years, right? I'm gonna really test that out today. Like anybody can be strong in the weight room, right? But on the field is a different type of strong. So technique wise or whatever, the 49ers are the first team. And, I feel like I had a pretty decent game that game. I forgot exactly what I graded out. A few errors for sure. You know what I mean? My first game ever pro. But I graded out pretty well. So I was able to earn myself more playing time throughout the preseason.
Yeah, that's good. Now, when you say errors, they keep track of that? Like, what's considered an error in football?
Okay, so error can be footwork, bad footwork placement, bad hand placement, right? Like my hands are too high. Penalties for sure, the easiest way, right? Like a penalty, offsides, holding, late hit. Also just blocking the wrong person, right? Like, so blocking the wrong person. So every person is assigned to block a specific person, or a specific gap. So if somebody runs through my gap and I got my eyes over here and I miss that, that's an error. So you may have 70 so plays, and if 10 of them are errors or whatever that is, they grade it on a scale percentage wise, and now you have a terrible game. So every game, every play is scored. So like at the end of the game, you just like you in school, it's a test, right? So you're gonna get to score exactly what you did wrong, what went great, average, and that's what you move forward with. So you might have a game where you grade out 97%. Next game, 73, right? And that 73% game is going to be the reason you don't play next week.
Whoa. See what I'm saying? Football cutthroat.
Oh, yeah, it is. For sure.
Like, man, you said it's like doing a test, right? Come
Yeah.
on. We all horrible doing tests, man.
Yeah. Right.
But I guess it might be different because this is like a sport that, you playing, So
Yeah.
so with your grading,
Mm-hmm.
did you continue the year with Minnesota Vikings?
No, I was only there until week 1, and then after week 1, I got released. Got released, and I didn't even see it coming. You know what I mean? I didn't see it coming. I had, thought I was on the roster. Told me what plans to put me on practice squad and things like that. And then all of a sudden, another player from another team got released that they had interest in. So they released me to pick up him, right?
Okay.
And that's how cutthroat the game is, right? Like that's a player that they wish they would have drafted, I think, a year or two before. I forgot it. I think he was like 2 years older. And finally, that team was releasing him, and they had a chance to get him, so they took him. So, it was no hard feelings. My coach was, really supportive, and he told me that, he would personally reach out to teams for me. And, it was tough, man. Like, I thought I was going to be there forever, right? Like, I'm 10 years, I'm thinking 10 years down the line, I'm going to be with Minnesota Viking, right? Like, win a few Super Bowls here. I'm in Minnesota. Let's buy a house. Let's settle down here. But, when that happened, it taught me a lot about the game. It taught me a lot about the business side, right? Like I think to that point, I was riding high on just, being a player, the excitement, the atmosphere. But now I had to realize like, this is a business, right? Like at any day you can be gone. And a lot of coaches used to refer to the NFL as, NFL stands for not for long, right? Like you may not be anywhere for long, right? Like, and you may not even be in this league for long. So make every day, every snap count. But yeah, they released me, man. And I was down in the dumps about that, But I took my time, and, about 3 days after, being in the dumps and feeling bad about it, I went right back to the grind and was waiting for that next opportunity.
Yep. And speaking of next opportunity, was the next opportunity the GreenBay Packers?
Yes.
Okay, it was the GreenBay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
So the GreenBay Packers picked you up. Now we from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Green Bay is what? About an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away from them. So they give you a call, AB. Yeah. What's going through your head? Because that's a veteran team. Mm-hmm. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Clay Matthews, AJ Hawk, Charles Woodson, Jordy Nelson. Mm-hmm. What's going through your head when you get that call? Like, hey man, the Packers want you, bro.
Right. Like, so I went to work out for them earlier in the year. I think like week 5 or 6, right? And I worked out for them, and I had a great workout because, like I said, after I left Minnesota, I took a few days to kind of process everything, right? And you get in that moment to where you comparing yourself to other people, and I'm better than him, right? Once I got all over that, I went back to the grind, two-a-day workouts, right? Like taking care of my body. Went to work out for them, I think it was week 6, and had a great workout, right? And I remember Reggie McKenzie was our GM at the time, and he's with the Raiders now, I believe. But he told me, he said, you on my short list. Like, I'm going to get you in this door. He was like, we need people like you around here. So hearing that, I told my agent, right, the agents keep it real with you sometimes. They like, don't believe nobody, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, he sounded genuine, right? Like, I feel like I did a good job. Like, he was genuine, right? And I'm like, he gave me a piece of cake, like, you know what I mean? Like, literally, I ate a piece of cake in his coaching office. Like, his wife came in and introduced me to his wife. I'm like, I'm on the phone with my agent, like, hey, this man, he genuine. Like, he really gonna get me back here? He was like, oh, we don't trust nobody. I'm like, all right. Sure enough, 3 weeks later, bro, I'm at home. And my phone ring, 920 area code. I didn't even know what Green Bay area code was at the time, honestly, right? I thought it was 414, right? So it answered, and it was Elliot Wolf, man. Elliot Wolf was the director of player personnel at the time, and he said, what you up to? And I'm like, hey, who is this? He's like, oh, Elliot Wolf, Green Bay Packers. He's like, Battles, you in shape still? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in shape. And he was just like, where you at in the world right now? I'm like, I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he was like, perfect. He said, I'm ready for you to be a Packer. He said, you ready to be a Packer? And I'm like, I looked at the phone like, damn, like, really? Like,
hello, Adrian, you still there?
Right, like, for real. Like, I'm like, really a Packer? So at that moment, bro, I was like, my mom would tell you, because she was sitting right across me at the table, like, I kind of lost my breath. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, when I need to be there, coach. And he was like, we'll get you flight out of MKE tomorrow. And I told him on the phone, I said, I'll drive there, right? Like I said, I'll just drive. Swear to you. I said, I'll drive. So literally I drove. I got off the phone with him, packed my stuff in like a little bag, bro. Drove up there the next day, right? Drove up there. They put me in a hotel for a day, came in, did all the paperwork stuff, right? It was a Monday after they had just played on Sunday night. And got to go in and meet the coaches on Monday. First practice was on a Wednesday. So I had about 2 days to go in and kind of live, get treatment, you know what I mean? Hot tub, cold tub. And then Wednesday was go time. Like Wednesday, I was, on the field with some of those legends that you mentioned earlier. And, the rest was kind of history. I think that was week 11. And, we kind of started to get hot at that time and went on a run, man.
Y'all definitely went on the run.
Mm-hmm.
I read up on this, AB.
Yeah.
And they actually said when the Green Bay Packers picked you up, you were their good luck charm. Did you know that?
I read that too, and a lot of fans still to this day. We had a charity softball game a few weeks ago, and a lot of fans still say the same thing. Like, Adrian, you're still undefeated as a Packer, right? Like, because even the second season when I was there on IR, we went 15-0. You know what I mean? Before I got released, so it was one of those things to where, like, you hear it, and you kind of deflect it, right, man? Like, I ain't the good luck charm. And you know what I mean? And I know, speaking selfishly, I want to be like, yeah, I was a good luck charm. Like, we never lost since I got there. But, I seen them guys grinding every day, man. Like, people coming in before the sun come up and not leaving till the sun was down. So I knew, maybe me being a part of that was amazing. I'm grateful for that. But the work that they started to put in, because we had 16 players on IR that year, you know what I mean? So we started to add a lot of good pieces. And I think a lot of those players that was backups started to fill in great roles. James Starks, TJ Lang, Marshall Newhouse, like a lot of those players that weren't starters that had to fill in as starters. I think they were prepared for that moment. And I think that's the difference in football is when you have an injury and you have a top tier player that goes down, like, do you have somebody that can come in and at least fill that void, you know what I mean, without taking a big step back. So good luck charm, man. I love that, bro. Like, I'm gonna show that to my kids one day that, hey, look, daddy was a good luck charm.
Yeah. I seen that was like, hey, this is the truth. Like, these are facts. Everything you just said are facts. You undefeated as a Packer. So meeting the players, man. Like I said, we already brought up the names, the household names, the superstars there.
Yep.
When you meet them, is it like a culture shock? I said culture shock, not a culture shock, but what's that word I'm looking for, AB?
Like starstruck?
Starstruck, yeah. Like, are you starstruck, or you kind of like, I gotta get to work? Even though I know you're probably thinking that, but which one was like, when you first met him, like, hold on, bro, I'm really like talking to Aaron Rodgers, bro. Like, what's going through your head, bro?
I mean, I think the right thing to say is like, oh, I was ready to get to work, right? But reality, man, I was starstruck, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie about it. Like, walking in and seeing some of those guys, like you said, Charles Woodson, right? Like Clay Matthews, Aaron Rodgers, right? I'm like, I'm in that moment again, like, wow, and I think the first people to kind of embrace me when you go into a building like that, right, with that many solidified Hall of Famers, right? Like, they don't, you can come and introduce yourself, right? But they don't respect until they see you doing the work, right? Like, you speak to you, hey, you my teammate, what's up, right? But are we gonna really become friends because you here to grind, or you here just for the ride? So, like I said, I got there that Monday. That first day I came in at Tuesday, I was there at 5:30, right? Like I said, what time the stadium open? 5:30 a.m., right? And I was there at 5:30, and I walk in and I see Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson there, Mike Neal and BJ Raji there with me. It was us five, right, to work out. And I'm like, okay, this is how I set myself apart. So now it's us five in the weight room. Everybody else will get into 7, right? And by the time everybody else get in, we already sweated, took a shower. Now we ready for meetings. So I knew that my way in and my survivalhood to be in this league was going to be through hard work. So I started to attach myself to those Charles Wilsons that I would see there every morning early, right? And that's how I earned his respect, right? So now it's, that Battles kid is always here before me now. You know what I mean? And I would get there and he said, what time you get in? I'm like, I've been here like 15 minutes. He's like, I got to get here earlier now. You trying to beat me, So I was starstruck, bro. But I think once I started working beside them and got their respect is when I kind of settled into where, okay, now let's get the job done, So it was, like I said, it was amazing, man. I think that was one of the biggest blessings in my life, just to get to Green Bay.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Blessings all day, man.
Yeah.
And so y'all had a pretty good relationship. The more and more you worked out, got up in the morning and you was around, that small group of guys.
Yeah.
Y'all wound up building a relationship, right?
Exactly.
A good one. Yeah, that's good.
Brotherhood.
Yeah, brotherhood. Yeah, I like that. So season come up, do you get an opportunity to play in any games or?
That first year, I didn't. I only was on the active roster once that entire first year. So I was on practice squad. I think we had 11 linemen at the time. We had only one lineman go down, and that lineman was filled in by TJ Lang in the NFC Championship game. He filled in at right tackle for Balaga. And so I didn't get a chance to play much at all. You know what I mean? But I think, as you know, man, being a professional, I mean, you've been a pro. I feel like we've been pros forever. Like, you playing ball, you're a pro. We win in the preparation. You know what I mean? I think once I learned that from my coaches, right, like, he was like, you may not play much this first year. And I'm like, but why not? You know what I mean? He was like, well, we stacked up front. We got everybody been up front 8 years plus. Scott Wells, 8 years plus. Chad Clifton, 8 years plus. Josh Sidden was like on year 9. Darren College was like on year 7. Balaga was the only rookie that started, right? And he was a first round pick, number 20 overall. So of course he's going to start. So I had to take that humbly and say, you know what? Okay, well, what's my role here, right? So how do I make everybody around me better? And I started to practice like it was a game every day. So they played on Sundays, right? But my game was on Wednesday. When we put on full pads on Wednesday, that's my game to not only show why I'm still here, but to say when the next person goes down, like, I'm the next up. You know what I mean? So that's the approach I had, and I think it benefited me. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of good talent, a lot of good fights in practice and things like that. But they knew who I was, and that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. Now in the football world, now when you say 53-man roster, that's who is that included, like the practice team too? Or so it's 53 on the team?
So basically it'd break down like this. So it'd be 53 total, right? 45 of those are usually dress, right? So you can be on a 53-man roster but not put on pads and jersey on Sunday, right? And then you have a practice squad, which is, it used to be 8 players, and now I think it's up to 10. So those players are usually those people that you fill in when somebody gets hurt, right? Somebody blow their ACL out, you move somebody from the practice squad, you go find another free agent on the streets to come replace the person on the practice squad. So that's kind of how that whole little system works. I know it's intense, man, but yeah, that's kind of how it works. So it's kind of like I spoke to about earlier, just being available, being healthy and being available. Like, that's your biggest way to get opportunity, to be healthy,
Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's a lot of people on one team, man. And you said it was how many linemen? Did you just say like 11?
So we kept 11 that year.
Yeah.
But that dressed on Sundays was only 8.
That's
God. The only 8 dressed on Sundays, the starting 5, and then it was 3 backups. And the reason why the 3 backups mainly dressed was because they played special teams. So they had other roles that warranted them to get dressed. So every team is different. Some team will dress 10 linemen, some team will dress 7, right? Like, it just depends on the week and the game plan. And that's kind of how they go about it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey, man, thanks for tell me about that football stuff, because I don't know nothing about it, man. I love watching it. Like, I only know the main positions, like quarterback, wide receiver, running back, all that, right tackle, left tackle, center. I don't know about it. But no, but no, so my dog, you win a Super Bowl, bro. Was 2011?
Yep.
2011, Super Bowl 45. You win the Super Bowl, bro.
Yeah.
Before I say what I'm about to say, you get interviewed by Chad Johnson before or after the finals? I mean, the Super Bowl.
Before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you win the Super Bowl, bro. 2011 Super Bowl 45, bro. What's your mindset going into the Super Bowl, though? Like, how you feeling?
Man, like, going into that week, man. Like, I remember I used to play catch in the front yard with my dad, and I would say, like, I'm gonna be a Super Bowl champion one day. I would always say that, Q, man. Like, not even knowing what a Super Bowl really was at the time. Like, I was maybe 8 years old. This is back when the Cowboys was running they runs off, right? I say, I'm gonna win a Super Bowl one day. You know what I mean? And I was thinking to myself, like, when I got to that moment to where BJ made that pick against Chicago in the NFC Championship game, and it really solidified that we was going. I couldn't believe it, bro. Like, I couldn't believe that I was on a team that was about to go to the Super Bowl. So, that whole week, we fly down there about 8 days early, and as soon as you get there, bro, like as soon as that plane lands, like you just see so many people waiting, right? Like, and it's just like it's a frenzy, man. And like for that moment, for that week, like you a rock star, you know what I mean? So it's everywhere you go, mall, out to eat, wherever it may be. Like, I mean, people are running, bro. Like, no matter, you can be the first man, you can Aaron Rodgers all the way down to the last man. Like, everybody wants to get a piece and say something to you. So going into that week, man, I couldn't even put the excitement, I couldn't even put it aside, bro. Like when it was time to practice, I've got my mouthpiece on cheesing, so so I think, like, I was so excited, man. And I think, like, just being able to show that it was possible, you know what I mean? Because it was something I dreamed about, but I didn't know how possible it was, right? Like, thought about it in college, didn't know how possible it was. Get cut by the Vikings, didn't think it was that possible, right? And now I'm actually here. And, going into that preparation for that week, like, what I think set us apart, honestly, was just the leaders we had in place being prepared and being focused on that week, right? Because you can get down there and there's so many things to get into, right? Super Bowl events is parties every night, right? But how are you going to keep your team locked in as a leader to make sure that we know the biggest party is after we win Sunday, right? So, going into that week, we was locked in, bro. Like, and I think thankfully we played in Dallas and it was a snowstorm. So a lot of things got shut down, which was thankful. We didn't have to battle those temptations of, do I want to go out? Like, what time is curfew? Things like that. So, I was excited, had a lot of fun, man. Met a lot of great people, a lot of past players that had won Super Bowls. 2 nights before, we had dinner with like a lot of the legends that had won Super Bowls in the past, the Emmitt Smiths and, all these people, man, and get to hear them speak about their Super Bowl experience. And it was a good moment for me, Ray Lewis and all these inspirational speakers, to hear them speak about their Super Bowl experiences and lack thereof. Like, and I think at that moment you realize a lot of the greatest players that play this game never been to Super Bowl or never won one, right? So it puts you in an elite category, man. And I was thankful for it all, man. I was just taking every moment in and just, just being thankful and praying every day and just thanking the man above for being there. I was just so happy to be there.
Yeah, for sure. Now, that's another amazing story to tell your kids.
Yeah.
You was the good luck charm in the Super Bowl with GreenBay Packers, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ain't from Green Bay, but it's in the same state.
Exactly.
That's I just remember when you won the Super Bowl,
mm-hmm.
I was kind of numb.
Yeah.
And I was just like, bro, I really went to high school with AB. Like, we really had fun times together,
mm-hmm.
in school, out of school, and you always been a humble dude, man. That's the crazy part. People don't even know that you were supposed to win, most likely be a comedian. Not me.
Yeah.
They ain't there between you and James McKay, though.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, James funny, man. And y'all rigged them votes too, man. I was mad when I didn't get that. I don't even know who did that voting, but I was like, hold on, Q Bar got that? But no, I mean, you know how it was when you was in study hall with me, man. You had everybody laughing too. But
yeah,
to get back to that Ocho Cinco interview, man, like that kind of happened after media day. So every day we had media day in the morning, and you kind of just talk to the media. They ask you any questions. So being that I was like the hometown kid, like I had a lot of publicity that week just for that alone, and it was just my message that I wanted to get across that week was that, anybody back home can do this, right? Like, I'm not some superhuman or anything like that. Like, any of these kids that's going to MPS school, right? Like, you can dream this dream and make it happen too. It's just about putting belief behind it. So when Ocho interviewed me, we had fun with the interview. He's a funny guy too. So we was just kind of talking about some of the most random stuff, but he's seen something in me too. He was like, man, your energy is different, because we had like a dance contest that day in front of the media, and for some reason I jumped into it, and after I jumped into it, right, like didn't even know why I was in it, but I'm like, everybody else sitting down, I'm gonna jump in and try it, right? Like hula hoop contest and things like that. So after that, he came up to me, he was like, man, I like your energy, let's talk. So we had a little interview, and me and him built a little relationship after that, and it was cool. It was an amazing moment for me too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, y'all go on to win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Man, after the Super Bowl, I know you partying with the team and everything, but your phone, like who? Like, I know your phone going crazy, from people, you know, back home in Milwaukee, Minnesota? Like, were you able to hit everybody back, man, or what?
That night I wasn't, bro. Like,
Not that night.
not that night. So you know what's crazy? Like, so the first half of the game goes on, right? And I go back to the locker room, and the first thing I do is check my phone, right? Because we jumped out early. We think we was up 21-0, and then they start coming back, inching back, right? So the first thing I do is go back to my phone halftime, and I look at it, and I'm like, damn, like text, call. I'm like, damn, okay, cool, right? So I remember Charles Wilson had just broke his collarbone, so he came out of the training room and they announced that he wouldn't be returning to the game, and I'm like, oh, right, like the messages might change on that phone pretty soon because you know losing a piece like that, I'm like, man. But you know he gave us an amazing speech at halftime, bro, about you know the only way we was gonna win that second half was you know everybody had to have the same heartbeat. You know that's what he spoke to all year, like everybody being on the same page. Your heart can't beat one way and your teammates' heart beating a different way. So once he gave that speech, man, one heart, one mind, one sound, you know, we went out the second half and we was fired up, bro. So to win that and then afterwards, man, my phone going crazy. The locker room afterwards, you know, put the goggles on, the champagne everywhere. And it was, you know, a lot of stars came in. You know, Lil Wayne is a huge Packer fan, you know, so seeing him walk in the locker room with Baby and you know Lil Twist and all those guys, you know, like you know that was another surreal moment because that's all I listened to at the time was Wayne, right? Like I had just listened to him. I think it was "I Am Not a Human Being" for pregame, right? So listen to him pregame and then him showing up after the game, I'm like, this is crazy, bro. So like everything felt like he was in a movie for a little bit of time, and I got on the bus and I started kind of replying to you know, my mom and them first, right? You know, moms and blew up the phone. Like, don't you see, you know, I ain't, you know, my mom calling during the game, you know, like what you know? So I made some of those returns right away and then just kind of saved everything else to the next morning.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, mamas don't play no games.
No, man.
Your pamper, okay? Pick up the phone.
Exactly.
But your mom is a wonderful woman, though. I love
I appreciate that, man. And you know, I'm a mama's boy, so.
Yeah. So you go on, you win the Super Bowl, the GreenBay Packers.
Yeah.
But then after that, you go to the White House.
Oh, yeah.
Barack Obama, the first Black president.
Yeah.
You get to meet him, Michelle Obama, and then go to the White House.
Yeah.
Come on now. I don't want to put you on the spot, AB. What was bigger? Pause. Going to the White House or winning the Super Bowl?
I don't think it's close, honestly. Winning the Super Bowl is way bigger than the White House, you know, and I think just because I started playing football at a young age, right? To get to the pinnacle moment of that journey was just the best thing, right? Like, and I'm not downplaying the White House, right? The White House was an amazing experience, but winning the Super Bowl, I don't think you can compare. I can't compare anything else in life right now to that. Maybe until, you know, I had my first child. I think that'd probably be the only thing I'm compare. You know,
Yeah. And I hope that wasn't like too much. Like,
oh no.
Okay, I was making sure.
No, I'm solid.
But if I had the chance, like that's like somebody asking me, like meeting LeBron or going, I don't know, whatever. But I'll be like, White House, whatever.
But no, I think, and not even like I'm saying the White House is whatever, but you know what I mean? Like going to the White House, I will say that's the first time I ever voted, right? Like that was the first time I ever voted in my life, you know, in college. So, you know, him winning and being able to meet him, right? Like I think that was another full circle moment for me, but just a change from a thinking perspective that anything is possible. Like, not that, hey, a kid from Milwaukee can win a Super Bowl, but hey, a Black man can become president, right? So even walking into that space that day, man, that's another moment, right? Like you seen the picture, even for me to get in front of that picture, right? Like I'm like, that's another picture that I have hung up, right? Like, cause it reminds you of that moment, bro, that whole flight there. Cause we was in a lockout at the time, right? Like we was in the middle of a lockout and it had just ended. So to be able to fly there and meet him, and I mean, him and his family are amazing people, bro. Like, amazing time. You know, the conversation he had, he talked just like me and you having a conversation right now. He sat down and ate with us and talked the same way. Same thing we always argue about, the LeBron Kobe argument, who's better, right? We had that with him, you know. So, you know, and he's a big time Chicago fan. So being from that area, so he talked about the Bears and how the Bears should have beat us in the NFC Championship game. You know what I mean? So we stole the Super Bowl for them. So it was dope to get to chop it up with a president at that level, man. Like you would never think that they're those kind of people behind closed doors, but they humans too.
Yeah, for sure. And that definitely is a dope experience. So I was making an example, y'all. So don't get mad. I might just edit that out. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
no, we good, man. We
No,
good.
but yeah, dude, that was a dope experience, bro, for you, man. Just that year alone, just winning the Super Bowl, and then your path, getting to the NFL, leading to playing for the Packers, and then going to the White House and being the first Black president. Like, bro, that's an amazing story, man.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that, man. I'm
yeah,
grateful. Sure.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure, man. So I do want to ask you, this though. I can't remember the year, but if you can touch on the concussion protocol, like I know a lot of players, been basically complaining about like it not being a lot of padding in the helmets. Like, do you feel like that's true?
I feel like it's true for sure. And I watched the preseason game the other night, and I see that they have made new helmets. I feel like it's a new generation of helmets every year. Um, I just feel like, honestly, I feel like the concussions come from every year. Everybody's getting bigger, faster, stronger, right? So those impacts are going to be that much harder every single time, and it's something that you can't stop, bro. Like even 5 years from now, like the players are going to be a lot bigger. They're going to be faster. You got people that's 280 pounds running 4.3s now, 4.4s, right? Like, so that's somebody moving 26 miles per hour running and hitting you head on. Like, how do you brace for that? Your body isn't meant to take that kind of contact. So I feel like the concussion protocol it's a really touchy topic for a lot of people, a lot of players, coaches, GMs, things like that. Um, the stipulations they're putting into effect now kind of alter the game in a bit. A lot of defensive players that I know, still speak to it, kind of changes their approach to the game and how
Yeah,
they not only approach it, but how they have to play the game, right? Like, can't really be as physical as you want, but I feel like it's a violent game, and I feel like going into a game like that, you're in a war field and somebody's going to be a casualty at some point. It's just that either you or a doctor need to know when it's time for you to get out, right? Like, and I mean that career wise and game. Like back in the days, people would get a concussion to finish a game. You know what I mean? And now I don't think that's still happening. But even when you have so many per year, when is it time to shut it down, or when is it time to call it a career? And you can never tell a player when to call it a career because we all want to play forever. You know what I mean? I wanted to play 15 years. Tom Brady 45 and he's still playing. So everybody has that dream of having that longevity, but it just doesn't happen that way.
yeah, exactly. And the reason why, I don't want to fast forward too much, but the reason why I asked that because we all know that football is, on the outside, we the outsiders saying this. We always say that it's cutthroat. We have heard stories about the concussion protocol and how it's not patent, and we also heard about players have a hurt groin or pulled groin, they get cut. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so yeah, just how cutthroat football is, man. I feel like that was the first thing um they should be taking care of you guys, with the padding and the not just the helmet, but the body, you guys putting your body on the line, bro,
Yeah.
and it's very dangerous sport, man. So
Yeah. And I think like it's moved they moved the needle a lot since I finished playing. Like even with the practices now, I think you only get a certain amount of practices per year with pads on, right? Like I think you only wear jerseys in practice throughout training camp for the first few weeks, right? So I think a lot of those steps will make the game safer, but on Sundays it's going to be Sunday, right? Like everybody's out to win. Everybody want to make their money. It's contract year for certain players. People are on that fence of being cut. So everybody wants to show up and make plays on Sunday. And if you in the way of me making a play and you get hurt in the process, that's how cutthroat it is. You know what I mean? So it sucks that it's got to be like that, but that's the love you got to have for the game.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, I always wanted to ask that, because like I said, I seen a lot of players complaining about that. But so you get injured 2012?
Yep.
Yeah, you get injured 2012, you
Yep.
tear your Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
What at that time, what's going through your head? Like, are you feel like, and Achilles is huge.
Yeah.
Achilles is huge. So all the obstacles that you've been through, You know, you get to this point to the NFL, and now you like, no, I didn't just tear my Achilles. So, what's going through your head, man?
Right. I think my whole career, man, from high school to college, like I had been fairly healthy, bro. Like had never really had a big injury, you know what I mean? And that was just the luck of the draw. When I blew my Achilles out, honestly, when it happened, I thought, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can attest to this if they ever had Achilles injury, it's like I felt that somebody had just like kicked my shoe off, right? So the first thing I did was I kind of just looked down and my shoe was still on, but I couldn't really get on my toes, right? Like I couldn't walk forward and get on my toe. And I'm like, man, like what's going on? So I think maybe I rolled my ankle, high ankle sprain, whatever. So after trying to take a few steps, I kind of lay down, right? The trainers come out and, I see them feeling like they kind of like grabbing and feeling on my back of my leg. And as they feeling, I can kind of feel that something's missing, bro. Like, what's going on? So I see one of my other trainers, Pepper, I forgot the other one name, but he kind of looked at him and he just shook his head. He was like, it's not there. And I'm like, okay, so they call the cart over now. So I get on the cart, drive off on the cart. And mind you, Q, like, I think my body is such in a shock to where I'm not even in a lot of pain right now. Like, I'm not even like in no extensive pain. So then we get to the locker room and they tell me to shower, give me the crutches. I take the crutches, shower, come back out, get dressed. They said we're gonna send you down to the lab, right? So they send me down to the lab. I get the MRI. I'm sitting there waiting, and Doc come out and break the news to me. He was like, you tore your Achilles, and I'm like, damn. So I'm thinking at this time I had never heard of an Achilles injury, so I'm like, how many weeks I'm out? Like really, how many weeks? And he was like, oh, this might be 8 to 12 months, depending on the procedure, depending on the rehab process. I'm like, so I literally looked at him and I was like, so there's no way I can play this season. And he said, no. So mentally, like I'm telling you, I'm not even in pain. So I get back on the crutches, go back to my locker, right? I call my agent, like, hey, they said I tore my Achilles, but can we get a second opinion? And he was like, Achilles, he going crazy too. Like, oh, blah, let me call him. So he called him, talk to him. They fly me to Indianapolis the second day to get a second opinion. So I fly there. Doctor, same thing. He pulled up on so at least this doctor pulled it up on the screen and showed me, right? Like he showed me like this is where it should have been. It's not there, right? I'm like, oh my God. So and I think at that point, it's really when he showed that to me, it's like it started hurting instantly, right? Like
Wow,
I'm in
yeah.
pain, they didn't put me in the boot now. I'm getting ready for the procedure, like I'm doing all the prehab now for the procedure. And, I tell that people all the time, man, I think like mentally I went through a lot more pain than I did physically with the injury, right? Like mentally I beat myself up because I feel like, you can blow an Achilles in a million different ways, right? But I feel like I was so pressed to make the team that I wasn't getting the accurate like rest and recovery, bro. Like whenever I had free time, I was working out. And I think my body was just so tired, you know what I mean? I think I overworked that muscle so much that may have been, we'll never know why, but that may have been part of the reason why I blew out. So I was beating myself up mentally, like, man, I should have been taking days off. I should have been resting. But then again, I'm a free agent. I'm trying to make a team. So mentally, it was a war field for me, So that whole rehab process for that year, bro, I was just like, I don't know where I was mentally, man. I had highs, I had lows, depression, you know what I mean? Eating disorders, right? Like I would lose 10 pounds one week, put on 12 the next week, right? Like it was just like a ebb and flow of a lot of emotions and feelings. And, to get through that, man, I think it not only made me better mentally as a man today, but, I think it kind of put my football career in perspective. Like it just, everything came to a culmination at that point to where like, now I know what I need to do if I ever get that chance again.
Yeah, exactly. So with football being so cutthroat, you tear your Achilles.
Yeah.
And the Green Bay Packers, they release you?
Mm-hmm. Well, first they put me on IR.
Okay.
First they put me on IR. And I think that was honestly like maybe a favor, right? Like I think they did like me and they, wanted to see what would go down. But eventually, they released me. Like, and the way they do it is they kind of offer you a settlement to accept being released, right? Because they can't release you while you hurt. You know what I mean? They have to give you some kind of compensation to cover you while this injury is in place, right? So if you can't go and try out for another team or play for another team, they have to compensate you and pay you for that time that you can't do it. So, they end up releasing me, bro. And like, I think that's when it really hit the fan for me mentally. Like, first I get hurt trying to make a team for y'all. I gave y'all my all. And now since I'm hurt, it's like, goodbye. So, mentally, that's another part that hit me, man. It's another one of those turning points for me, for sure.
Dang. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Dang. I'm sorry that ever happened to you.
No, man.
And the crazy thing about it, I tore my ACL, and I always thought that was the worst. But I know quite a few people that tore their Achilles, and I wish no injury on anyone. But people always pick Achilles over ACL.
Yeah.
And everyone, I'm not lying, AB, every person told me this, said the same thing you said. It felt like somebody stepped on the back of my foot or kicked me or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would hear a little pop, right? But it's not like nothing. You playing ball, sometimes you just pop a little bit anyway, right? But yeah, bro, it doesn't feel like this big. I'm pretty sure when you tear the ACL, it was like when people tear the ACL, it's like they in immediate pain, they crying, right? I've seen a few people tear their Achilles in real life and they walk off the field. Kobe shot free throws after he tore his Achilles, right? Like it's one of those things to where I think it's one of the biggest ligaments in the body, but it's crazy, bro. Like your pain doesn't hit right away. And I don't know why that is, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
when you take something that's connecting your calf all the way down to your foot and remove it, right? Like it's weird. It's a weird injury to have.
Dang, you got me feeling my Achilles now.
I'm always feeling mine now, man.
You are?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. but yeah, so you so the comeback season. So you rehab. Now you going as hard as you was before you got in the NFL because you want to get back on the field. But this time you play. I don't know the league called. What is the league called? Not the NFL, but next to it,
AFL.
AFL, yeah. So you play for the AFL. Now, how did that come about?
So I did a rehab and I attacked it full speed, and a lot of water workouts the first few months. Just I couldn't put my body weight on the Achilles, and then kind of progress every week, and then once I got healthy. I know to get with another team was going to be tough, right? So once I did get healthy, my agent got me a workout with the Buccaneers. So I flew down to Tampa, and I worked out for them. And, they had promised to sign me. So this was like week 14 of the 2014 season.
Okay.
So they had told me they was going to sign me in the offseason. When that didn't come about, my agent told me we really just couldn't sit around and wait. So he was like, the indoor football, arena football league and indoor season is starting soon. We got to get you out here and get some film, right? They needed to know that you could still play after some kind of catastrophic injury. So at that point, I went into this AFL with the same mentality, bro. Like chip on my shoulder. Like I felt like going into these teams with NFL experience, you should be the best player on the team, but it's a different game indoors, right? So they are pros playing their game, and I was a pro playing the game outdoors, right? So there was a few adjustments I had to make to even playing in that league, but I went in there and played ball, bro. Like I played my heart out every single game. It was a lot different playing in shoes instead of cleats, right? On AstroTurf instead of grass, and all those little things. And scores are insane in arena football league, 65 to 70, right? Like,
yeah,
it's an offensive tailored game. So getting used to that, you know what I mean, and the speed of the game. I played ball, bro, and I thought that was going to get me back into the league.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't, right? And I need to know when to pull that trigger myself, because I didn't want to be a person that ended up playing in that league for 10 years, right? I wanted to get in, get what I needed, and get out, right? I didn't want to make a career out of that league. And like I said, it's nothing against that league. I just knew I went in with a plan, and I went in and get out. So it got me a few more workouts, right? Like I ended up getting a workout with the Jets from that, and it just never panned out, and that's a reason far beyond my belief. I don't know why, but it just must not have been meant to happen for me. So yeah, I kind of used that comeback season in a way to kind of, make it happen. But through that same league, I gained a lot of exposure, and it got me a few more workouts, a few more brothers that I added to my list that I still talk to this day that, played in that league with me. It was a good experience.
Yeah, man. And that's dope, man. Wow, AB. Wonderful, wonderful resume. Just wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing them with me because, like I said, I really don't know anything about football. And, it ain't like I don't know nothing, but I don't know a lot either. So the things that you was talking about, is very, very interesting, and it's, great story to hear, man, so I just hope, whatever young kid or whatever student athlete watching this, podcast, man, I really hope they paying attention and they can learn something from it, man. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I appreciate you. Oh, well, before I let you go, I got a question from Willie Williams.
Willie Will.
Willie Will. He went to Vincent with us, y'all. If y'all don't know, he class of 05, but he transferred and went to Hamilton, but that's another story.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. So he said, if you had to give 2 pieces of advice for young up-and-coming student athletes who are looking for the blueprint, becoming an NFL player, what would it be?
That's a good question, bro. I think piece of advice number 1 would be practice the craft that you're going to use in the game. And I mean that from a perspective of, if I'm an offensive lineman, right, and I get done lifting weights, I don't want to go on the field and run 40 routes, right? Don't go on the field and do these pretty cone drills that everybody posting on social media, right? Get in your stance and fire out that stance 70 times that you're going to do on a game day, right? I feel like a lot of young kids and, even people in college, you kind of get caught up in this social media era to where you want to put up a video that looks pretty, right? Like, I'm doing the drills and the footwork matters. However, do the things that you're going to do in the game, right? Like, you won't see a point guard spending 2 hours on post moves, right? Like, it's no point. You know what I mean? So practice the craft that you're going to practice in the game every single day, right? Get in and out of that stance because you're going to be in that stance all year. I would say that will probably be number 1. And number 2 for me, I would say, not only embrace the journey, but make sure along that journey you take a little bit from everybody, right? Like, I feel like sometimes you put all your trust in one basket, right, to where this person knows everything, but you're going to meet so many coaches and players along the way that you got to take a little bit from each and every person, right? And go into every situation you're in feeling like you're the best player because you are, right? Like, that's a mental game that you battle yourself, and never lose that belief in yourself, man. Like, continue to focus on the people that support you. Don't waste the energy even entertaining the people that doubt you, right? Like, everybody's got doubters, man. You get to the highest level, LeBron, right? Like, he has doubters. But do I think LeBron is sitting up losing sleep on the people that doubt him? No, right? You know what I mean? So believe in yourself, focus on the people that support you. And I think practice the craft that you're going to play in the game with, right? Like, just and like the analogy I gave earlier, right? Are we going to see a wide receiver doing lineman drills? Right? Because they're not doing it in the game, right? But we always see the big boys trying to do the pretty drills, right? Like, it's crazy, but I get it though, you know what I mean? Because I was that same guy doing the same thing, right? Like, I wanted to go out there with, Nick and Levy and do these pretty drills, Dominique, right? And it wasn't getting me nowhere, right? Like, I'm not doing that with y'all on Friday nights. Friday nights, I'm in the trenches. So practice those things in the trenches and just stay true to your craft.
Yeah, man. Dude, thank you for sharing that. Wonderful answer. And thank you, Willie Williams, for the question. Great question.
Yeah.
So again, y'all, I got my brother, my homeboy, Milwaukee native, legendary, Adrian Battles, 2011 Super Bowl champ. My dog, man. Super Bowl champ, bro. Come on, man.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I think
you Barcode podcast, man. Like I said, man, I think this is an inspiration to people too, man. Like, you starting this podcast. I know we talked about this. I think we was downtown Milwaukee like 3 years ago. You told me you was gonna do this, man. So, like, man, all praises to you, man. Like, to do this, like, I can see this as a natural thing for you, bro. Like, these are conversations we have when we together anyway. So all success for this podcast, man. Like, I'm excited to watch every episode and just, man, continue to take it to the top. Don't let nobody stop this, man. Barcode for life.
Man, my dog, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Hey, coming to the Barcode podcast, man. That means a lot to me, dog. Hey, I'm out. Peace.
Just touched down, back on road. Counting money, man, you know how it goes. Hit the VIP and tell my bitch to strike a pose. Hop in mode.